Hello, everybody. I am Myles Weber, and welcome to the Two Tired Parents podcast. I'm Myles Weber, as I said.
Is that what you said?
That's what I said.
I'm Heather Weber.
You are. You are. You only said it once, though. So, I mean, you want to say it again just for good measure?
We're good.
All right. She only needs to say it once. That's fair. That's fair. Right on. All right. Well, we're doing the thing today. We're very excited.
We are.
We have a very special guest, especially right now in our household. She's been kind of a staple.
She has been a staple in our household.
She has been a staple in our household. We have been, we watched one of her videos last night.
We did.
Our guest today is Gina Conley. She is a certified birth doula, strength and conditioning coach, childbirth educator, and the founder of Mama Stay Fit, a powerhouse brand that's helping parents everywhere feel informed, empowered, and actually prepared for birth and postpartum. Gina, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So for those of you who may be new to you and your work, what inspired you to start Mama Stay Fit?
So I started Mama Stay Fit in 2017 after the birth of my first daughter. So I have 4 kids now, so I have been busy over the past 8 years.
Really?
And so after she was born, I realized that I was just generally confused and almost scared to move my body, both during pregnancy and then after birth. During pregnancy, I didn't want to do anything that was going to like hurt my baby or harm my pregnancy. And there's so much misinformation out there and a lot of unsolicited advice on what is safe and what is not safe. And then when it came to the postpartum, I didn't want to do anything that was going to like make my pelvic floor explode and stop working and destroy my core, destroy my body. And so there's a lot of fear kind of in both time frames where if I move in the wrong way, maybe I'm going to hurt myself or potentially hurt my baby. So I spent both phases like really confused and really scared. And I realized that movement was actually incredibly beneficial for both phases of life. During pregnancy, it's really beneficial for both the mother and the baby. During the postpartum, it's incredibly beneficial again for both the mother and the baby to exercise and to move your body. And so I started Mama Stay Fit to figure out what those movements were that we can do to feel better in our body and so empower other women to feel comfortable moving their bodies during pregnancy. And so we offer online courses, online fitness programs for both prenatal and postpartum. But we started with in-person support. And we still have an in-person gym here in North Carolina. So after the birth of my first daughter, I realized I was really confused, and I realized a bunch of other people were also really confused. So I went back to school. I got a bachelor's, a second master's degree, started taking all sorts of online courses, and I started a like personal training service out of a gym in my area. And I just had a bunch of moms that would come, they bring their babies, and we would figure out movement together. And so over the years, I figured out, hey, these movements make a lot of sense for somebody in this phase of life, and they feel more connected with their bodies after doing these series of movements. But these movements, they feel good for me, but they don't really feel good for most people. And so I was able to work with my clients to figure out what type of exercises felt really good for a large group of people, as opposed to like what worked only really well for me. So that's something that's been really unique about Mama Stay Fit is it's not just I was pregnant and then took an online course and then made a bunch of programs. Like we work in person with clients to develop our programming, to test all of our programming. And then we also have PTs that we work with. So we started in like a garage gym. It was like a bunch of dudes. We're by a military base, so it's like a bunch of dudes in like ranger panties, like working out. And then like in the corner was like moms and their little babies, like doing some different exercises. And now we have our own facility where we have a chiropractor, massage therapist, PTs working out of our space. It's an exclusive facility just for moms and their babies. We let dads come and work out sometimes, but it's usually just the moms and their babies. And it's a really fun environment for us. So that's kind of where we're at now, and that's kind of how I got started. Essentially, I was really confused and I didn't want to be confused. I realized how beneficial movement was. And so I wanted to figure out what those movements were. And I think I've done a pretty good job of figuring that out over the years. And now we have a really large online platform. Our gym has really grown. The online clients has really grown. And I'm really thankful to be able to support people all over the world to feel more empowered during their entire experience.
I love that. And also, hats off to you that you went back to school after your first and was like, I'm going to get all the degrees while I have a baby and figure it out.
Yeah, in
And
hindsight, that was a horrible idea. It was awful.
I
It's
get
really
that.
hard to go to school with a baby. I really underestimated it. I only had one at the time. My sister, she's my partner here with Mama Stay Fit. She went back to school from midwifery after her third, and it was much more challenging for her.
Oh man, yeah, it's a doozy. I did, and I've been, I mean, periodically in and out of school because of life events. But yeah, I tried after our first, and there were many times I was just taking quizzes with him on my lap, and like, I know it's timed. Hopefully, we'll figure it out together.
Oh yeah,
So
well, there's definitely been setbacks in life where you've come and gone from school, but I feel like with kids, that's whew,
yeah.
that's a completely different ball
So
game.
hats off to you for A, doing that, and then B, like, I'm gonna start a business, which is no easy feat, while also having a newborn. So that's huge. And also I think it's really cool that you have physical therapists, chiropractors, everybody on board. That definitely sets things apart. I've been a trainer for 17 years now. But I would say me as a trainer grew once I started working with a physical therapist to learn more about the body and the do's and don'ts. And so I think that really sets things apart. So also hats off to you for doing that as well. And I love the
It's
image
a
of like
really
the guys
a
working out.
good blend with all of us together. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. No, I bet. And especially because I think your sister's is she a nurse or a doula?
Yeah, so we have a great variety of expertise that are coming together. We have our PTs that are coming from the medical side, more rehab side. My sister is a labor and delivery nurse, so she's a student midwife right now. I'm a birth doula, and so we're kind of combining all of these different expertise with one another. And so the PTs are really great at like the one-on-one support, giving more individualized rehab exercises. And then what's really nice is we can pair that PT with our in-person programming and our online programming. And so a lot of their PT clients will also do our fitness programs because we kind of blend that rehab into like a program that brings you back to deadlifting and to squatting. And that's usually kind of the gap that's missing is we have the rehab with PT and then we have our fitness trainers, but we need someone in between, which can be a fitness trainer as well to kind of bridge that gap to rehab and return to fitness. And that's what I've been really excited to do for our clients that work out with us in the gym and then also work out with us online.
Yeah, I love that it's a one-stop shop, especially because like right now I'm 34 weeks and I'm going to a chiropractor. But it would be nice if like everything I went to was just in one place and I
Oh
wasn't
yeah.
like bouncing around for everything.
Absolutely, yeah. Having everything just centrally located, very, very beneficial, and like, especially because everybody's like being able to work behind the scenes with each other
Mm-hmm.
to better connect, right? It's probably a better fit for all the people working behind the scenes to be like, oh, I worked with them last week, and this is kind of where they're at, as opposed to just like having to call somebody and
Yeah.
things like that. So I get that. That is a lot to juggle for sure, just like for anybody, but especially being a mom. As far as like when you started this whole concept and getting it in motion versus today, what has the work life balance looked like for you? Like, how has that evolved? Where did it start? And how does it look like today? Is there much of a difference?
There's definitely a huge difference between when I started and where I am now, but I still struggle with patience, and knowing that it's okay for projects to take time. And this is something that I have struggled with the entire time that Mama Stay Fit has been in existence, and will probably be something that I struggle with for years and decades to come. But in the beginning, it was just me. I was a one woman show. I was doing all the things for my business. I wish there was like a little checklist that like when you sign up for an LLC that the state would give you to be like, hey, make sure you sign up for these 8 things too, otherwise you get penalized. And so essentially, I figured out that I needed to charge sales tax like 2 years in when someone called me and was like, you haven't paid your sales tax, and I was like, I was supposed to do that. Like, so it would be really nice when you did an LLC, the state would just give you a list that they know that you need to do. But there was a lot of figuring it out in the beginning, and that takes a lot of time. So while I was trying to figure out my programming, take my online courses, do my degree program, do my in-person classes, also be primarily a solo parent to my baby because my husband's in the military, and at the time he was in a really time-intensive job, so he was gone from 4 or 5 in the morning until like 8 or 9 p.m. at night, and that was for like a year and a half. So I was essentially like a single mom, also trying to do all of this stuff at the same time, and so it was definitely really challenging. And I really had to figure out like what my boundaries were. And that was really hard in the beginning because I knew how hard this phase of life was to be by yourself and to lose all your friends and trying to figure out like who you were and figure out your identity. And I was finding that my business was like the community that we were building was such a really great place for people to come to. Like a lot of moms were feeling a lot less lonely. They were making friends with one another and setting up play dates. And I wanted to be like the person for everybody. So I wanted to get lunch with this person and then do a play date with this person and then set up a walk for everybody at this time. And so I was kind of like everyone's coordinator for all of our social events because I knew how important it was. But eventually I realized like I can't do all of this stuff for everybody. Like y'all got to figure it out on your own. Because I have a baby that I'm essentially like forgetting about because I'm so focused on everyone else as a mom. And so I figured out like, all right, I need to set boundaries for myself. I can't be everything for everybody else, which is really hard to do in this kind of arena where people need you. Like people need a village, but I can't be everybody's village. And I also need a village for myself as well. And so that balance and saying no became really, really hard for me, but it was really necessary because I was like, man, I feel like I'm not even like paying attention to my baby. Other things that I started doing was eventually, when I had enough clients, I hired more coaches where I was like, okay, I don't need to be the one that's here every single day for every single class. Like, let me bring in some other coaches. And essentially, like the moms that I was working with, I just asked them if anybody was interested, and I had three or four moms that were like, yeah, I would love to help you with this. Um, and so I still have five coaches now that help me out in the gym. And now we have like employees that help us with a lot of the online stuff. I have like a whole contracting team that helps me with more of my media aspect of things. And so I figured out over time, okay, what tasks does Gina need to do? And then what tasks can other people do for me? And so being able to let go of that was something that was really hard to do, but like really necessary to do. Like I don't need to be the one that uploads my YouTube videos. Like I have to film them. I have to come up with the ideas and the creative aspect is Gina's. But like I have an editor that edits my videos, and then I have an employee that uploads them and figures out all the shorts to do and does all the descriptions and helps like reply to comments because not everything has to be Gina. And so the beginning was figuring out how to say no to include to myself. Like I needed to say no to myself as well. Like I can't do every single project. The reason why I was in this career was because I wanted to spend more time with my baby. And so I might as well do that. Like that should be my priority. And that goal has kind of sustained over the years as I've added more kids is remembering that my number one priority is to have this job that gives my family more financial freedom so that we can spend more time together and we can go do more fun things together. And so I try to keep that like at the forefront of my mind because it's really easy to find myself like stuck in front of the computer all day like working and because there's always something else that needs to be done. So I needed to set boundaries with other people and then with myself as well. And then I also needed to figure out how I can best delegate, which is hard at the beginning when you're starting a new business and you don't have any money. Like you can't
Yeah.
pay somebody to do things for you if you don't have any money. Like it's really hard to do that. So figuring out if you're earlier in your business, what what are some important things to invest in? Because I wasted a lot of time doing tasks that were outside of my skill set that I could do like half-assed just from pure grit. But like I probably should have invested in somebody else helping me with that earlier than I did. So like my website, for example, I should have hired somebody much earlier in my journey to help me design a logo, my branding, and get my website going because that was going to convert more sales for me and give me more money to hire more people. And so figuring out what what things I should have invested in earlier would have been really helpful for me. And I think that'll differ from person to person. For me, I think if I had hired like a website designer earlier for like a branding, would have been beneficial. And then as kind of sales increased and revenue was increasing for me, I started figuring out what can I delegate, what do I not need to do, but and letting go of some of those tasks can be really hard at first. And it's also really hard initially to teach somebody your process. And that is time consuming. And so if you're already busy, the thought of, well, let me walk somebody through this process for like three
Mhm.
weeks that's I don't have time to do that. Like I'll just keep doing it myself. It's easier for me to just do it myself. But like reeling back a little bit and being like, okay, I really do need to hire somebody to do this for me. I need to teach them my methods, but also be open to the fact that they might do it differently. And it's
Yeah.
okay if they do it a little bit differently than me if we still kind of if we reach the end state and the end the goal of it. So that was kind of how I initially balanced things. Now I have like a really in-depth schedule, and I try to be very strict with that schedule with myself of okay, this block of time is for my kids. I'm only going to do stuff for my kids during this block of time. I'm not going to play on my phone. I'm not going to do social media. I'm not going to like reply to emails. I'm going to just look at my children and play with them. This block of time is my work time, and this is where my mom's going to come over, or I have some sort of childcare set up that somebody is there to focus on my kids, or maybe they're at school or that they're at some activity that gives me that block of time. So like right now, my two oldest kids are at like a 3 hour camp, and my younger two are with my mom. So I know for this block of time, I can solely focus on work and nobody's going to bother me and I can stay super focused because it's really hard to work with a small child that
Oh
is
yeah.
constantly needing something to like get out of that flow is like really hard and it's time wasting. So I have somebody here to like watch my kids and that's my dedicated work time. And then it's back to okay, my kids. And then I also figure out time blocks for just myself because sometimes it gets really hard where hey, that was the kid time, this was my work time, but there's no like me time. And if I already have somebody watching my kids, so for me to work, it feels really hard to be like, okay, I know that you're watching my kids while I work, but now I'm gonna go do a workout. Is that cool? Like, and so that can, or I'm gonna go get a massage. I'm gonna go get my nails done. And so making sure that you include in your childcare your time for you is equally as important as well. Like you need some time to turn off to just not have to think about anything. Otherwise, that's going to seep into other times. And for me, the time that like gets impacted if I don't give myself time is the time with my kids because that's the time where I feel like I need to just turn off. But I want to be present and I want to be really active with my children. And so I allocate time for just me with my workouts or getting a massage or my nails done or things like that. And I think that that time is really, really important. So
Oh
that's
yeah.
kind of how I balance things as an overview.
I mean, it took a lot of time to get there, I'd imagine. But I mean, yeah, I would say, like, for us, especially most of our work is done from home, except for when Myles is doing his shows. And so it is hard to be like, okay, well, if we have somebody helping with our son, we almost feel obligated that all of that time should be work.
Yeah.
And so it does get hard to be like,
Yeah.
oh no, we need that self-care time. We need the walk or the workout or the meditation or whatever it is. And so I think it's so hard to get into that. But I also love that you were saying the whole purpose of this was for you to be able to have more freedom to spend time with your family, and things started to kind of battle that. And I actually just read something this morning that was saying, don't spend so much time focusing on giving your child a good life that you don't give them a good day. And I was like,
Mm.
oh, yeah, that's that thing.
That part,
Yeah.
that part.
No,
I mean, like,
that's
yeah,
good.
everything she said
That's
was so
good.
important. Like, I mean, just because, yeah, I feel like it does resonate, with us
Hmm.
specifically. But I mean, like, oh, that'll resonate with everybody because, yeah, you do get so caught up in everything that's going on. But I mean, being able to recognize, like, well, I'm not just a parent, I'm also a spouse and I'm also me. So
Hmm.
like that those versions of myself still deserve time and care, and being able to give enough care to those aspects of yourself will inversely help move things over
Hmm.
to like everything starts to win a lot more if we're able to better balance how these things are all spread so we don't spread ourselves so thin. Yeah, no, I love that.
Yeah. So, I mean, amazing, amazing job. And especially when you were saying you finally have somebody like editing your clips and everything, because we're subscribed to your YouTube channel, and the amount of content you put out between the workouts. I think for a while you were doing like the week by week updates of your pregnancy. I know you guys had the podcast. So, like, there's so many things that you guys are putting out there. So, I'm glad to hear other people are doing that part for you
Oh yeah, there's
because
no
there's so
way.
much.
There's no way that I would have any amount of time. Like I mean I could do it, but then I would have like no time for literally anything else.
Yeah. Oh, for
So
sure.
it is nice to be at a place financially with my business where it makes sense to hire somebody else to do it because it frees up my time. And I think my most precious resource, and I think the most precious resource for everybody is your time. And so if I can really focus on what are my efforts towards and then delegate everything else, that would be really nice.
Yeah, I love that. I'm so glad. And I mean, like I said, you guys have so much out there for so many different people. So I think it's fantastic of what you're doing. And I think it's fantastic that you've been able to get to this point of like not just with your business, but also like with yourself and with your family, I think is great. So
Yes, absolutely. I have something that's kind of a question based off of, I mean, kind of our experience in that our first son, our first kid, was born in a different state.
mm-hmm.
And so we've been talking recently about how, I mean, from state to state, it's going to be different regardless.
Mm-hmm.
But like our experience, first time around where you gave birth, it kind of went one way,
Mm-hmm.
and then now being in California, it's kind of gone a different way. Some good, some bad. You know, there's definitely been a give or take, and I imagine with state by state, it's different. States can be wonky, as you had mentioned earlier. It's like it would have been nice if the state was just like, "Hey, here's all the things that you might get penalized for," and it's just like, "Yeah," but then they don't get that penalty money, and I feel like there's so much that's ran off the penalty money, right?
Yeah.
But I think the big thing is advocating for yourself and what you want your care to be and what that looks like. So I think, how do you think that pregnant folks can better advocate for themselves during their prenatal care, especially when it comes to birth plans or movement-based birth prep? You know, what does true advocacy for yourself in those capacities look like?
So I think the easy answer, which is not going to be realistic for everybody, is to find a provider that you don't have to do that for. Like that they're already on your side, that you don't have
Mm-hmm.
to fight them to get what you want for your birth. So if you are leaving your prenatal appointments and you feel really uneasy or you feel like you can't ask a question or you feel like another number, it might be time to find a different provider. Now that's not realistic for everybody. You might be in a maternal care desert where you have one provider that you can go to. You may have been seeing this provider your whole life and you feel really comfortable with them. But at the end of the day, if you leave your appointments feeling uneasy and you're like, I don't think I can ask them a question, and I feel like during my pregnancy and my birth, I've had to fight, they might not be a good fit for you. And then depending on what you're wanting for your birth, we may need to explore like community birth options, so like a freestanding birth center or a home birth option. Um, those become a little bit harder because then we're limited on providers and they're also usually a little bit more financial. There's a little bit more financial commitment on those.
Yeah.
So that's sometimes not always accessible. But the first thing is, how do you feel good at your appointments? If you do, then you probably are not going to need to fight. Like you can
Yeah.
probably just tell your provider what you want and they'll be like, cool, we're on board. Let's do that. Like the standard things that people usually want is they want to be respected during their birth. They would all like to be alive at the end, which I think is the bare minimum. Like being alive at the end is the bare minimum. But there's plenty of room to be respected, like during your birth. Folks want to be able to move freely, whether they have an epidural or not. If they have a C-section, they want to be like involved somehow. Like, hey, talk to me. Remember that I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
And then usually after birth, they want some meds. They don't want some meds for their babies. Most people want delayed cord clamping for longer than a minute and they want skin to skin. They want their baby to be right there with them the whole time. And if there's something going on, they want to be communicated to. And so if you leave your appointments feeling like good, that's probably a good sign. You probably are not going to need to fight for the birth that you wanted. If you feel like you have to fight, then we might need to find somebody else. Now, if you're like, Gina, this is my only option. This is all my insurance covers. I got nowhere else that I can go. I'm like 34 weeks pregnant. I can't transfer. This is it for me. I would not recommend free birthing. That is not my recommendation by any means. I know there are people out there that advocate for that, and I think that's a great option for them. That is not my recommendation because there are things that can be treated at birth that without a medical professional, you and your baby may die. So, we would like to avoid those very rare occurrences, but the only way to prevent them is to have a medical professional. But what I would recommend is if you feel like your provider is not listening to you, is to not necessarily go out and do all of the research and present the ACOG bulletins and this is the paper that says this, is to just tell them how you feel. Hey, I feel nervous. And I think it would take like a complete asshole to like be like, I don't fucking care. Like,
Yep.
like, but I mean, there are people out there that are like that. If you have a provider that's like that, please, for the love of God, find somebody else. But if you just kind of bring it back to like how you're feeling and be like, hey, this is not me trying to disrespect the fact that you went to school for 1,000 years and you have X number of years of experience. This is not me trying to say that you're not an expert. This is me telling you that whatever it is that you are doing is making me scared. And I would like to address that. Um, and usually people are like, I'm a human being, and somebody just told me that they're scared, and I am the one that can help them. Let me provide some support. So if you're like, hey, you just recommended induction for me. That was not my plan. My plan was to go unmedicated. Like, I wanted low intervention. I wanted to show up and my baby fall out. This is a complete change of plans. I feel really scared
Mhm.
about being induced. Like, I had a different birth plan. I'm worried about a cascade of interventions. I'm worried about having to get a C-section if I get induced. I feel really scared right now. Help me. And they're going to be like, oh, okay, well, the reason why we're recommending induction is for this reason. Or actually, maybe the induction is not completely necessary. We can give you some more time. Let's do some NSTs, let's do biophysical profile and see how you and baby are doing. And then if you guys are doing well, we're going to continue pregnancy. Or, hey, no, this is why we really recommend induction. Like for this, and this reason, we really do think it's safer for you and for your baby to be induced. This is how we might manage the induction to make it less overwhelming for you. Like, we're going to talk to you each step of the way. And so they're going to know, hey, I feel scared. And then like, I would hope that they are a human being and
Yeah.
compassionate in some capacity and will help you through that. Now, it is helpful to know your options and to know what your preferences are. Like, if you don't know your options, you don't have any. And this is where taking like an independent childbirth education course could be beneficial. Some hospitals have childbirth education courses, and some of them are run really, really well. But I would say most of them are probably not. And there's usually some hospital childbirth educator that's really offended when I say something like that. But most of them are designed to help you be a really good patient and to kind of give you
Yeah.
an overview of like what the hospital does, which is not a bad thing. To be familiar with what they offer is not bad. But I would recommend taking an independent childbirth education course because they got no skin in the game. Like,
Yep.
if you take my course, like, no, the hospital doesn't pay any more money if you get a C-section or if you get like, I mean, the childbirth educators in the hospital don't get paid more money either. But like, I'm just gonna tell you your options, and I'm not hired by the hospital, and so I can be unbiased about the things that I offer. And that's something else that I would say is if you're taking an independent childbirth education course and you feel uneasy taking the course, or you feel uneasy from their social media presence where you feel like, you know what, I think if I got an epidural, that educator would probably judge me, that's maybe not the best course to take.
Mhm.
Like, I would say maybe don't take that course. But ultimately, like, understanding what your options are, the reasons for different interventions, like the pros and cons, understanding that they're just tools that are available to you. They're not good or bad. Like, it just really depends on like what you need. You don't need everything. You might need something, maybe not. I don't know. So those would be kind of like my recommendations to help you advocate for yourself. Is one, choose a provider that you don't need to, because they're already on your side. Like, they're already willing to talk to you. That you're already the center of their care. Like, they have patient-centric care. They don't care what's convenient for them. They care about you and helping you have a good experience. And it's really easy to tell that you have that provider because your appointments, you feel good.
Yeah.
You're like, I trust this provider to
Yeah.
care for me, to guide me along the way. It's unreasonable to tell somebody to do all of the research possible to like defend themselves in their birth, because no amount of like 9 months is not a long period of
No.
time. And by the time you realize, like, oh shit, I have options, like, you're probably in your third trimester, and like 3 months is not a long enough time to become the expert in things. And so, what you want to have is a provider that you trust to guide you with their experience and their expertise, but still honors the fact that you are a human being that is autonomous, that you get to make decisions and you're the final decision making authority. Um, so those would be like my recommendations. Find a provider that you vibe with, that you feel good with. If you can't find a provider that does not vibe well with you, tell them how you feel. Just focus on how you feel. You don't have to focus on, well, research says Pitocin. Just focus on how you feel. Pitocin scares me. Make me not scared.
Facts.
Like, just focus on how you feel, because you are the expert in you, and you are the expert in how you feel. And for partners, you can also focus on that too. You are probably not going to be the expert on Pitocin or how to titrate it or administering it, but you are the expert in your partner, and you can be
Mhm.
like, she seems scared.
Yeah.
Can we make her not? I am also scared as the partner. Can you make me not scared? And just focus on how you feel because you're the expert in you. You're the expert in your experience, and you should make the decisions in that. And then the third thing would be to take an online childbirth education, or not online. You can take an in-person one too, but an independent childbirth education course where you can learn your options. And ideally, you take one like mine, but you take one that's independent and unbiased. Like
Yeah.
you shouldn't feel like they would judge you if you made a decision that maybe differed from what they would make. So if you're kind of following them on Instagram or social media and you're like, I feel like if I gave my baby vitamin K, they might like call me and tell me I'm abusing my child, that they maybe not a great person to like
Yeah.
take a course from because you are the final decision making authority. Like it, yeah, does that make sense? Yeah. So
Oh
that's
yeah, no,
those are my
that's
recommendations.
huge. And I love that. And I love that you're saying like to be informed and be educated and find somebody to help you do that. Because even from my first to now, granted we were in Nevada for my first and it
Mm.
was also during the pandemic and so things were limited. And so in that, I felt like I knew nothing by the time I went into labor and delivery. Like I felt so ill prepared. They'd like forced Pitocin. Like it was
Yeah.
very just like, okay, well, I guess I'm just supposed to do these things. And now, since then, like doing my research, it feels like night and day as far as where we are with like our knowledge and education. But it's come from being advocates, asking questions, doing research, and doing all of that. And I know not everybody has that, but I love that. And I love that you're saying like you should feel better leaving because with our first, we had a doctor. With this one, we have a midwife, and she is so nice.
She's
She
great.
hugs me every time she comes into the room,
Facts.
and it's like it's a warm, comfortable feeling, and so that helps a
She
lot.
popped your tailbone back
Yeah,
in.
she also popped my tailbone back in, which was
Yeah. Her
helpful.
tailbone was out for like 3 years after the birth. And she was just like, oh, I guess my tailbone just hurts all the time now. And she was just like, girl.
Yep.
And then she was able to pop that back in. We don't
Yep.
know where it's at right now because you're in a lot of pain. But still, man, like, yeah, no, it's definitely been a night and day
Yeah.
scenario.
How do you feel like, because I feel like now I'm hearing more about doulas than I did maybe even like 5 years ago.
Mhm.
How do you feel like doulas are helping with the advocacy factor?
I think with the doula, like there's somebody who is one typically not hired by the hospital or your birth location, so they're independent, so they got no skin in the game. Like they're not being told by anybody to do anything a certain way. They're just hired by you as like the client. So that can be a really beneficial thing. The other thing is like they are really informed on birth and your options, and they may present things to you that you didn't know were an option to you kind of in the moment. So me, I'm a doula. Things that I do is like one big thing that happened is like, hey, you can unplug the IV pole so that you can move around the room, and they're like, I can. Yeah, like, and so it's like little things like that that you might not know because it's usually not told in a childbirth education course. Like, hey, by the way, just so you know, this is how you adjust the bed. This is how you. So they're kind of there doing like the behind the scenes work and reminding you of options that you may not remember that you have. Like, hey, did you know that you don't need to be on an IV fluids if you don't want to be? If you don't need it, and it's just for funsies. Like, hey, you don't need to get a cervical exam if you don't want it. So they're just kind of there to remind you what your options are and based on your preferences. And so that can be really helpful to have somebody like there in the moment to do that for you. They're also going to be with you the entire time. Usually whenever you're in active labor, and it can vary from doula to doula, but in general, like once you're like needing support, they're there with you until your baby, and that's a huge difference because typically, like your labor nurse will probably have like two patients that they're supporting, and if you're the only one, they're not going to stay in the room the whole time. They're going to pop in and out. Boop, boop, boop. And same with your provider. So your midwife or your OB, like you'll probably see them like when you show up, they'll be like, hello. And then you'll see them when your baby's crowning. I guess typically like the two times that you'll really
Yep.
see them, unless you need some specific things throughout. But they're like they're like a ghost until like the big moment.
That's
So
cool.
you'll see your nurse more often. You'll see your provider like less often, but they still exist. But your doula's there with you the whole time. And so and they're usually somebody that you've established a relationship with the whole time. You may or may not have ever met your provider before. You likely have never met that nurse before unless you just happen to have friends that are labor and delivery nurses. So these are really new people for you. And so you can have this one person that is ideally like the expert in birth to help answer questions for you, to kind of bounce stuff off of. And they had this established relationship with you so that they know, okay, these are your preferences. This is how you like to be supported. This is kind of the dynamic of your relationship with your partner. Because I have some partners that they very much love each other, but the dad is maybe not as emotionally like aware, and he doesn't know how to, he's like, I don't know what to say to make her feel better. And I'm like, dude, I got you. You just squeeze her hips. And he's like, I could do that. And then I have other dads that are like super emotionally connected and sensitive, and they're like saying all the things, and they're like, what do I do with my hands? And I'm like, put your hands here. So a doula can also help guide the partner too, who maybe is feeling really, there's a lot of pressure for a partner to be like, hey, not only are you probably less prepared than me, because you probably like maybe just realized that we need to start preparing for birth, and you've been thinking about all these other things, I also need you to advocate for me when I'm in pain.
Yeah.
Like that's a big ask, and it's really hard for our partners who have probably less experience than us in birth. Um, and so having a doula to help advocate for you and remind you of your options and to help guide your partner can be take a lot of stress off. Now, doulas can cost money. They can cost money. Usually they're not covered by insurance. Some insurances do offer some coverage. And so this is where it becomes a little bit harder. And so if you have like a family member or a friend that has given birth a few times, that could be like a great additional person to bring for support. Not to say like that's the same thing as a doula by any means, but like it's the extra person, it makes a big difference. Now, if you have the finances to pay for a doula, then by all means, like I would highly recommend it. And then similar to like your provider and to taking the childbirth education course, you want a doula that is going to support you no matter what your choices, whatever you decide. Like they should not pressure you to do things in a certain way, and you shouldn't feel like they would judge you if you chose something different than they would recommend. You don't want anybody in your space during your pregnancy or your birth or motherhood that you feel like would judge you for the decision that you made as a adult. You get to make your own decisions regardless of what I may choose. Like who cares what Gina would want to do in the same situation? Like it's not my baby, it's not my body or my birth. Like I may make recommendations, but if you were like, actually I think I want, I'm like, cool, let's do it. I don't care. Like I care about you. I don't care about the decision that you make. Like, so you should also have a doula that you feel wholeheartedly supported by, that would not judge you for making a certain decision. And so if you do want to hire a doula, I would definitely recommend doing an interview with them. I very rarely is there doulas that are so booked out that like if you don't hire them right away, like you lose your chance. Like there's definitely like other doulas too. Like so if you're like that's a lot of pressure for likely a big investment for somebody that's going to stare at my vagina, I don't know. Like just go ahead and put some more feelers out there. Like in our small town, we've got like 15 doulas. So like if you're in a big area and a lot of them travel, there's plenty of doulas. Don't feel pressure to hire somebody on the spot. And then as you kind of navigate, I would make sure you have a contract. As you navigate your pregnancy, if you're like, this doula's not a good fit for me, look at your contract and then fire them and hire somebody else. Like
Yep.
it's okay. Like make sure you have a contract though before you do that. But ideally, it's somebody that you feel really comfortable with. You feel that they're going to be unbiased and non-judgmental for you. But I would recommend them if it's available to you and you can find someone that's a good vibe. If not, like if second support person, like a family member or a really close friend that you feel really connected to that maybe has some experience with birth can also be really beneficial as
Yeah.
well.
The interviewing
Yeah,
of
I
the
was just gonna
doula.
say
Yeah,
that.
yeah. The interview that was a pro tip right there.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we had the process where we were trying to shop around for a doula,
Mm-hmm.
and first couple just didn't very general. Like I think we hopped on a Zoom call. The lady, she was in her car or something, and we
Yeah.
were just like, okay, all right, right on. You might be a little busy. That's okay. But then the one that we're with now, like, oh man, it was just
She had like her bio, like copy paste
ready to go.
everything sent over, like, and just aligned with everything we were looking for. Like, she's one that, like, even after I feel like we'll be friends with her because
Yeah.
we just vibe so well. But yeah, so interviewing, because there was a couple I'd get texts from, and it would be very pushy, like, okay, so when do you want to start? And I'm like, just via text? No,
Don't
thank
assume
you.
the sale on me. Yeah, exactly. We're not assuming the sale
Yeah.
right now. So it's hard. So it's hard. But I
Yeah.
mean, when you find a good one,
Yeah.
that's
Ours has been pretty fantastic.
ours has been
and
pretty amazing.
She got me like a journal because I was dealing with anxiety, and so she checks on me pretty much weekly, and so it's been very, very nice. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, very helpful.
I was gonna say, just because you were mentioning partners, um, a little bit more, but as far as postpartum recovery, are some good recommendations for the partner for postpartum recovery when it comes to the physical health, the healing, the mental health that kind of goes into everything postpartum?
I would say the first consideration is whether or not somebody has paternity leave and that they are going to be able to be there, because there are a lot of folks that don't have that and have to go back to work right away. So, in those situations, if you don't have an opportunity to physically be there to provide support, having somebody else that can come, like your mom, your mother in law, a family member, a close friend, or even hiring like a postpartum doula to come and provide that in person support can be incredibly beneficial. Now, if you do get to be home, at least for like a few days, maybe like a whole week, or however long that you get. My husband got like 12 weeks, which was like really awesome from the military. So the
Yeah.
military has great maternity and parental leave benefits. They're just never here outside of that, but that little piece of
Those
time
12
was
weeks,
great.
though.
Right.
So big things that like my husband has done that I found to be really helpful was the first week I pretty much just like lay in bed with whoever the new baby is, and that he just like solely manages the other children. And then every morning he brings me breakfast in bed. He brings me coffee. He makes sure my water's refilled. So he's constantly like nourishing me throughout the day, because nourishment is huge for the early postpartum phase. And then my mom would also come over and help like bathe the baby, help change diapers, and like he was really big on changing diapers. So everyone would just kind of do everything for me for like the first 2 weeks, which is like super nice. And I was like, I kind of don't want to leave this bubble of like being like pampered. Um, so those were like big things for me, was making sure somebody's feeding them. If you cannot be the one that cooks, like there's usually like a meal delivery service. You can do like HelloFresh or other like quick meal cooking options, like DoorDash stuff. Set up a meal train with like your friends. We live in a military community, so a lot of family does not live nearby. And so we'll do like gift cards. So you can get a gift card to like this meal delivery service that we have in our local area, or gift cards to DoorDash, and like friends will kind of coordinate with each other for that. So like whenever my sister gives birth, I coordinate with all our friends to like figure out meals or gift cards. And usually like just giving money is like super easy for everybody. That's always super busy. Um, so if you cannot be the one that feeds them, figure out another feeding method. And this could be also prenatally doing like meal prep. Fed and Fit has like a postpartum freezer meal plan on her blog. It's like a free blog that has like a whole bunch of meal ideas and recipes to like freeze them ahead of time. So that can be a great option to do together while you're preparing for postpartum. Setting up that meal train prenatally can also be really helpful. You can do it postpartum as well if you have the time for it. The other thing is to make sure like they're resting. Like so either doing the chores, if that's like their primary role, or hiring a housekeeper, or just being like, don't worry about the dishes. We're just getting on paper plates. Like figure out ways to like offload yourself to where it's only like a 2 week period. So maybe we don't need to vacuum every day, or we don't need to do all the laundry, or, so maybe we need to hire out, or like you're going to be taking on a little bit more of a load during that time frame, because healing from birth is physically challenging. Like you just went through a lot. And I think it's sometimes really dismissed with how significant it is. And I think the first time that somebody goes through a postpartum phase, they don't realize how hard it is, because I feel like just motherhood in general is like really diminished, like within our society's perspective. And so know that it's going to be like physically hard to like exist for at least like 2 or 3 days. And then it gets a little bit easier, but you're still like, are my organs going to fall out like over the time? So making sure that they have the opportunity to rest by taking tasks away from them. I had a lot of FOMO during my postpartum, while like my husband would like just get to go to the grocery store, and he would get to go take the kids here, and I'm just like sitting in bed. So including them in kind of recaps on things can also be equally helpful. But yeah, so those be kind of like my main things. Make sure they got a meal plan. Make sure that they can rest, and then just kind of take off some tasks from their load, like as much as you can for at least like 2 weeks, and then yeah.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned the FOMO thing, because I mean, I have that in general. Like,
Oh
if I
yeah.
miss something with our son.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, I love that you're like, have them be a part of things. But I've even heard of like moms, like, they'll just go sit at the park at least. And like, the dads or the partners will be dealing with the kids at the park, but they can at least watch it and experience it. And
Yeah.
so I love that. And I love that you were saying meal prep, because we're actually doing It's weird to say like a meal prep party, but I guess that's what we're doing this weekend. So we have friends coming over and they're bringing a whole bunch of ingredients, and we're just kind of meal prepping and freezing them and getting everything together
Yep.
for it. And also game changer, because we didn't do that the first time. And I'm
No.
like, oh, this is going to make such a huge difference. So I love that you mentioned that. So perfect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I think she touched on pretty much everything that we wanted
Yeah.
to cover in here. We do want to be respectful of your time and everything, and thank you for coming on. Do you want to let people know who are watching or listening where they can follow you online and how they can go about doing that?
So we have free resources all over the place on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. It's all at Mama Stay Fit. So it's like Namaste, but with an M at the beginning, fit. Our website is mamastayfit.com, where we have online childbirth education courses, online pre and postnatal fitness programming. And then I also have my book, Training for Two, which I think you can get on Amazon or wherever you buy books as well. And that's all about prenatal fitness, how to move throughout your pregnancy to feel confident, to move pain free because pain is not a requirement, and also prepare for birth. And there's one chapter on like early postpartum recovery as well. I'm really proud of it. It was born kind of the same time as my fourth baby, so I had like twins last year. But yeah, so those are all the places that you can learn more from us. We have a ton of resources. We try to make everything as accessible as possible. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the name Mama Stay Fit. I mean, I was joking with her beforehand. I was like, Mama Stay, it's like the opposite of Dad Leave. And she's like, I mean, it's a play on Namaste. And I'm like, I'm not dumb, I know. Like, I know that. Let me have one bad dad joke in this whole ordeal, right? So, but yes, no, the branding, everything's great. The videos have been fantastic. We have the book right here,
Yes,
absolutely. So
absolutely.
Training for Two, definitely check that one out. It's been very, very helpful. And yeah, the between this and the videos, I can say as somebody who really wants to be a supportive partner during a pregnancy, there's plenty to do. There's plenty to support, like being able to do the exercises with her and assist her in that capacity. I think it makes me feel more involved, but also makes us both feel more prepared
Well, even we
for everything.
listened to, I believe you had an episode with your sister where you were talking about like unmedicated births and that whole saga. And so I had him listen to that,
Yeah.
and we learned so much from it. And it was nice just to like have him hear it too and not just me tell him about it, so he could absorb it differently. And so I think like us going into this one, we both feel more confident in it and educated because of your stuff. So thank you so much.
I'm glad to be a support for y'all.
Yeah, oh, it's been fantastic. And yeah, that book has been everything. So it's nice, especially because I've been having really bad insomnia this pregnancy. And so it's nice, like if I'm doing stretches, I can just like quietly open the book and I'm not waking anybody up to do some quick stretches and then try and go back to bed. So thank you so much. Thank you for your time. This has been so fantastic. Again, everything you do, I think, for your family, the community, what you've built in 8 years is pretty remarkable. So thank you so much for everything that you do. And thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you all for listening and watching. Like, share, and subscribe. Sound off in the comments. What is your experience that you may be having right now before baby comes? Or what was your experience like? Was it the same? Was it different? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Please sound off in the comments. And we will see y'all next time. This has been the Two Tired Parents Podcast. I'm Miles Weber.
I'm Heather Weber.
And we'll see y'all next time.
Bye.